reckless and lucky. Yo, what's up? It's someone that's someone, and welcome back to today's report. Today's report was sent in by a Fortnite god. The substances used: Dexmethylphenidate, which is Focalin, Dextromethorphan, and Diphenhydramine, at a dose of 850 mg of DXM, 1100 to 1200 mg DPH, and 70 mg of Focalin. The route of administration: orally and insufflated. Gender: male. For his prior experience, he notes: opiates, stims, benzos, disos, RCs, a lot of DPH, Ambien, gabapentin, donepezil, and Lyrica, and the setting: at home and at work. Alright, so quite the combination, which I don't think we covered anything like this. A dissociative, deliriant, and a stimulant. Pretty wild stuff, and just a straight up risk for a rough time. We covered DXM and DPH many a times now, with some reports of the two in combination, where things can get extremely trippy and otherworldly. And with a dose like this is pretty comparable to those trips. But we're also introducing Dexmethylphenidate, a powerful prescription stimulant that often goes by the brand name of Focalin. We'll dive into Focalin in another video. But just know, it's a real strong one, and isn't something you want to mix with these other two. Fortnite God somehow manages to get through this normally though, until the next day, where the stress unloads on his body. You'll just see what happens. But I'm sure you'll enjoy this one, so without further ado, let's dive right into this. Before I get into what happened, I just want to say I know this was stupid, and I'm surprised I lived through this. But I just didn't care at the time of the trip. I'm an ex-poly addict at this point and have a lot of prior substance abuse experience. I had a couple of sole opioid overdoses and a few overdoses with mixed substances. At the time of the trip, I had a prescription for the Focalin. I worked overnight at a supermarket. I had bought DPH as generic sleep aids and DXM in the form of 5-ounce Delsum the day before after getting off of work. It was about 8 a.m. when I drank a whole bottle of Delsum, which I figured out to come out to about 850 milligrams. I took around 600 to 700 milligrams of Benadryl and enjoyed my trip before going to sleep. It was just a normal DPH/DXM trip. Music was amazing. Saw some bugs on the wall. Heard voices. I woke up at around 6 p.m. and I had to go to work at 11 p.m. that night. I normally would never do this, but I think I was super dissociated and just said fuck it and downed another bottle of Delsum. Everything felt really zoomed out, and I tried my hardest to walk normally so people wouldn't suspect that I'm on something. Music was really good, and I couldn't really feel my body at all. Like I was numb without the euphoria on a high dose of opiates. I was just chilling at my PC, listening to music and watching YouTube while tripping for a couple hours until it came time for work. I crushed out 2 10mg Focalin in between some spoons and snorted it before I got in the shower. Everything was really zoomed out in the shower, but I had so much energy. It felt like my body was surging with electricity kind of, and I just wanted to move and jump around, but everything was still numb feeling, so I had a hard time doing this. My mood changed too, and I felt the happiest I'd ever been. Very talkative and sociable, which is the complete opposite of how I am normally. Before I left my house, I took a 10mg Focalin orally and 500 mg of DPH. This is probably one of, if not the dumbest thing I've ever done, because I was still learning how to drive and I drove my mom's car to work with her in the passenger seat. I was really dissociated, but I tried very hard to keep my cool. I didn't really have many visual hallucinations, but I did have a lot of auditory ones. I kept hearing my girlfriend's voice, my mom's voice, my grandpa's voice, random music. Sometimes my ears would ring. I even heard the gun sounds from CSGO and Rust occasionally. It was very hard to focus on the road. I kept on speeding up way past the speed limit and running stop signs. And I remember my mom bitching at me, but I just didn't care because I was so out of it. Eventually I got to work. It was very hard to walk, but I think I managed to look sober because I didn't get any weird looks or anything. Eventually I got the things I needed to stock on a U-boat and proceeded to the aisle. I had earbuds in and music sounded fucking amazing, but I kept hearing people's voices, so I got distracted. but I eventually learned to ignore them. The floors and walls would move, but I would try not to stare for too long because I thought I'd get in trouble for not doing anything. I had to match the numbers on the product to the numbers on the shelf, and it was very hard to read them. I had to squint and stare at it for a good minute. Eventually my boss called for a break, and I went into the bathroom and popped 2 10-more-milligram Focalin. Over the course of the next 30 minutes, my mood skyrocketed back to the feeling I had before. I was really happy, and I had a lot of energy, but my body was numb and everything felt distant. I kept repeating things to myself in my head, and they weren't thought loops. It was like I had a lot of energy, and I just liked to say it. I remember one of the things I kept telling myself was, ride a U-boat like a skateboard, and I have no idea why. Eventually, I got all my work done in an aisle, and I moved on to the next one. I felt like Superman, and I can stack and organize the aisle super quickly. I was hallucinating noises from different games and repeating random shit in my head. Eventually I got off of work and was able to clock out. My grandpa picked me up, but I didn't drive home because I told him I didn't feel good. Shortly after I got to my house, I felt the crash from the Focalin. It didn't really impact my mood at all. I just felt normal again, and my energy dipped very low, and I fell asleep while I was watching a movie. I was still very dissociated like before. Everything was zoomed out, and the hallucinations were majority auditory instead of visual. Next day I went to work, I snorted 10 milligrams of Focalin and took 10 milligrams orally, and I got the worst chest pain of my life and felt like my heart was going to explode after an hour and 30 minutes of stocking stuff. I don't know if it was because I took DXM and DPH the day before or because I had taken too much Focalin in a short amount of time. But I don't think that's the case because I've taken more Focalin at once before and didn't have any chest pain.